What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're here to talk about the final 3 episodes of Marvel Studios' Ironheart. Now, I just finished watching the show. It is almost midnight here. I am very tired, but I wanted to give you guys my overall raw thoughts of it. There will be spoilers in this, so if you have yet to see it, go ahead and click out of the video and come back and check us out after the fact. But I have to say, guys, I was hearing a bunch of hype about, well, I wouldn't say necessarily hype, but a bunch of good things about the finale of the show, how it's one of the very few Disney Plus shows that really stuck the landing for it. And I have to say I kind of disagree with it. It wasn't bad by any means. It was cool. It was all right, but I was expecting more. And what I mean by expecting more is there was a lot of suspense and hype around the idea of Mephisto being in the Ironheart show to begin with was already kind of a weird take, but he is in the show, but not in the way that we were anticipating it. We kind of get the backstory of the Hood and how he became introduced to Mephisto, and I was kind of felt like that whole backstory was a little lackluster, to say the least. I was expecting a little bit more, maybe like he was diving deep into like the mystic arts and magic and all that, and that's how he came into be introduced to Mephisto. But it was just him running away from breaking into his dad's mansion, and the guards were chasing him. And Mephisto said, "Oh, you're in a pickle. Follow me into this pizza joint." And they eat pizza, and he just sells his soul to the devil. And it was just very weird, lackluster. And I was really hoping to see Mephisto in his glory, the red skin, the devil. Well, but it was just him in his human form, which it was still cool. He was still sinister. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with that character going forward. And they finally name dropped Mephisto, so I know New Rockstar is gonna be super hyper about that, or super hyped about that. So that was cool. That's something I am excited about. I think the whole magic aspect of the show was pretty tight. I guess I'm a big Scarlet Witch fan, Loki fan, Doctor Strange. So anything that has to do with that, and I do like that they actually reference Kamar-Taj and everything going on there, and Doctor Strange and Dormammu. They throughout the entire show up until the very end, they thought that the Hood was working for Dormammu, but ended up being Mephisto. And Mephisto laughed at that and pretty much made a joke about Dormammu, kind of like undermining him, saying he's not even all that great and whatnot. So I did like that aspect, that they were kind of bringing it. Like I said about my other video, I like how they're kind of bringing it, making it feel like a world that's lived in and referencing other things that's going on. But aside from that, these last few episodes, I just found myself doing this a lot. Like, okay, it would get to a really cool part of it and getting into the whole magic and dark stuff, and then it would cut away back to Riri, saying she can't do this, I can't do this, and just went back to her building her suit. It literally took 3 episodes for her to build her suit, essentially, because in the 4th episode she it gets destroyed. And now that I'm talking about that, I have to say I'm not a huge fan of what they decided to do with Obadiah Stane's son, the Ironmonger's son. It was really cool, like, thought in the first 3 episodes. Oh crap, I wonder what they're gonna do with that. And they could have done something really cool with that, but they basically just make him an electro puppet for the Hood. And I'm like, okay, I don't like that. I think they could have done something a lot more meaningful with that character. I can't think at the top of my head what they would do with him, but it just wasn't that. He was literally like, he had all these little marks on his face. They shaved his head, and he had like electro powers, like from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, except he just wasn't blue. And then that the Hood had a controlling device in him that he could make him do what he wants. He was just a puppet. I'm like, okay, I was not a fan of that. The first 3 episodes got me. I was like, okay, this is really cool. Bring it back to Iron Man 1. But I feel like they completely dropped the ball on that one. But basically in the 4th episode, Riri gets her suit destroyed by him. And I'm tired. It's super late. But yeah, she gets her suit destroyed by him. And then the next 2 episodes are just her dwelling, and I'm not good enough, I can't do this. And then they decide to build the new suit. And what they use to build the new suit is, of course, the car that Riri and her stepdad were building back when she was younger. So they strip apart this beautiful muscle car to create her new suit and all that, but it took 3 episodes to get there. And it's like they would just go from one really cool scene with the Hood and Mephisto, and then immediately go to, Riri in her shop, talking about Natalie the AI. And I don't know, it kind of like the moment it was trying to grabbing you in, it would immediately take you out. And I know that those spots of Riri in the shop building her suit and whatnot were supposed to be impactful and meaningful, And there was one scene with Natalie, bringing a hologram in memory of her stepdad, which was really touching. So there were some cool parts of it, but I just found myself being like, okay, the moment they would catch me to get into something, I'd be like, okay. So I don't know. And then the show just ends. Like I said, I kept hearing it has a very satisfying ending. And the show ends. Again, this is spoilers, so if you made it this far, I'm sorry, but this is spoilers. She ends up Riri ends up defeating the Hood, which I thought that battle was lackluster. It was really cool because the Hood there was one moment that was cool in that battle. Most of it was lackluster. Was him turning into, he kind of looked like Morbius a little bit. He was turning into this demon, so that was kind of cool. But the fight was over in like 3 minutes. It was very, very quick. Riri outsmarted him. How she defeats him is she decides to combine technology and magic, which is a big concept of the show. And that's how she uses magic against him, because she realizes that nothing on Earth, nothing in this dimension is going to be able to combat what the Hood has, because he obviously has the magic from the devil. So she uses magic, but when she gets in her suit and she confronts him, she just magically knows how to use spells. Like there was no like build up to it. She just knows how to do it. And like, okay, that's really weird, because we had a Doctor Strange movie where it took him like half a movie just to learn how to do the Marvel circles, the Marvel sparkle circles, but Riri automatically knew how to do it. So there was like no build up. It's just like she made this cool suit. They got magic involved with it because she has a friend that ends up being a sorcerer, like who's into sorcery, and her mom lived on Carmitage, which that was cool. Again, bringing it right back to other aspects of the MCU, but that was just kind of, I feel like that was just kind of like shoehorn in there, and like so they are able to attach magic to her suit, and then she was just all of a sudden knowing how to use magic, and she used it to fight the Hood, and that's how she won. So I just like, okay, that was weird. So I wasn't really a big fan of that. And I don't know. I guess I had a lot of high hopes for this show because obviously, big Iron Man fan. Anything to do with Iron Man. Riri Williams is a pretty cool character in the comics. I know she has a big connection with Tony Stark in the comics. And so there was a part of me that was actually excited about this. I'm like, okay, we get Iron Man, the Iron Man aesthetic with Sinister, Mephisto, spiritual stuff. And I just thought the magic side of it, bringing more to the magic side of the MCU. So honestly, there was parts, the concept of this show, it's a pretty cool concept, but I just don't think they stuck the landing with it. And ultimately, I left the show feeling by the end of the show, I just kind of felt like, okay, that's it. I feel like we were just kind of getting started, and they wasted so much time of us just rebuilding her suits and all this stuff, when they could have just been more focused on, like, the show should have started with Riri selling her soul to Mephisto and us seeing the ramifications of that, because now we're going to see her not again until Doomsday or Secret Wars, but there's going to be so much other stuff going on that I don't see how they're going to have time to even reference that, she now has all these veins and stuff coming out, like these vein tattoos from now that she's working for Mephisto. I don't know how they're going to be able to fit that in. So I feel like the show could have been more focused on that, and that would have been, honestly, probably made the show a lot more successful and something more, impactful and drawing to the audience and whatnot, because we live in a day and age where Marvel can't just put something out with the Marvel Studios logo anymore and it just be something amazing, which is unfortunate that we got ourselves here. And I strongly believe that Marvel's going to, get back to what they were back in 2018, 2019 with Infinity War and Endgame. I know they're back. They're going to get back on track. I have no doubt. Out of like 30 plus movies, there's been like, 12 that haven't been that great. I still think that's a pretty good track record. So given the benefit of the doubt, I know they're bringing it back on track. But I feel like that whole concept of Riri selling her soul to Mephisto would have been a much better, story for this show, and something that fans would probably gravitate towards more. But overall, I think I would give this show a solid, 6.5, 7. So nothing too crazy. I can see myself putting it on the background when I'm cleaning the house stuff, but it's not something I'm gonna like gravitate and watch again. And I think it's just another one of those Disney Plus shows that didn't really, stick the landing. And we've only ever gotten that with Loki and WandaVision, in my opinion. WandaVision, that finale was rough, but up until that point, you can't deny the cultural impact that show had on everybody. We were talking about that for months, and the speculation stuff. That's what I wish the Disney Plus shows were, but instead it just kind of was a downhill spiral. But like I said, I'll give the show a 6.5, 7. I just found myself, it just wasn't for me. Not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. Not every show's going to be for me. This one wasn't it. I found things I did appreciate it, but for the most part, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I'm just ready to move on to the next thing. And it's kind of unfortunate. I feel like Marvel felt that way too, because it's very weird that they put out the first 3 episodes and then the last 3 episodes within 2 weeks, and there wasn't much hype or talked about it. And honestly, the only talk that's been about it is just been negative stuff with real world stuff going on that what people are putting on this show. So I know that's not what Marvel wants, but so that part's unfortunate. But I had high hopes for the show. Didn't turn out the way I wanted. I was expecting a lot more out of Mephisto. Did not get what I wanted. It was kind of, all I can say is lackluster. Great attempt, but they did not execute it. I don't know what people saw when they said that they felt like this was a very satisfying ending to the show. I felt like it wasn't a satisfying ending. It was a satisfying hook beginning to a show. So that's kind of where I'm different on that. But now I want to hear from you guys. If you have seen the show, do you guys feel indifferent? Do you feel the same as I do about the show? Do you think it was lackluster? Do you think that Ironheart should have been about her selling her soul to Mephisto and us seeing the ramifications about that versus what we got? I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. I appreciate you guys as always taking time to check out this video. Don't forget to like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.